Now, the homeowner contracted out a lot of the major projects, but now he's starting to bite off some of the smaller ones himself. And we are here to tackle the porch columns, and we're going to cover the bases with a real fieldstone veneer. When you're planning to do stonework, there's plenty of choices out there. It all depends on the look you're after. Cultured stone, also known as man-made stone, has become really popular with do-it-yourselfers because it's thinner, lighter, and easier to work with, and many of the products look very realistic. Of course, there's no replacing real stone, but it is heavier and more labor-intensive to set, so it can scare off the average handyman. But if you've got your heart set on real stone, there is an easier option, and it's right here. It's real fieldstone veneer. Now, this comes from Haulquist stone, and this stone is quarried in Wisconsin. As you can see, we've got corner pieces, we've got flat pieces, and it's real stone. The side you set is flat. Together is the hardest part of the job.
I know it.
Besides basic tools and supplies, you'll need grade B tar paper to prepare the surface, hammer stapler, expanded metal lath, type S premixed mortar, a 4x12 rectangular finishing trowel, an 11 or 12-inch London-style mason's trowel, a half-inch tuck pointing trowel, grout bag, tooling iron, mason's hammer, and a 14-inch cutoff saw with a segmented diamond blade to cut the stones when needed. Now, we can't attach the stone right to the plywood because this expands and contracts with the changes in temperature. So we'll take this 2-ply tar paper and attach it to the plywood. That'll act as a water vapor barrier so the water can't get in and rot the plywood. Now, we're going to want to start from the bottom and lap over just like a shingle so the water drains off. Now, these columns are fiberglass, and the base is fiberglass as well, so we're just going to move this out of the way. We'll shim it up here so we've got plenty of area to work. It's important to pull the corners tight and use a utility knife to cut the tar paper.
When applying your tar paper, it's important to wrap over the horizontal surfaces on top of the cap to prevent any moisture from seeping into the framing.
Need something to adhere to, so we're going to be putting some mortar on. Mortar doesn't stick to tar paper, but it does stick to the lath. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to put this on, so I want to show you that. On the back side, you'll see these little ridges, these little dimples. This will go against the tar paper, and it holds this lath out about 1/8 of an inch, and it gives you more surface area for that mortar to collect in. Also, on the front side, you want to make sure that you've got this the right side up. Draw your hands down, and it should be smooth. And one final thing, this stuff is really sharp, so always wear gloves. The studs, and nail between the mesh so it's tight against the surface. You can't put too many nails in here. Here we're overlapping our lath about 4 inches on the horizontal seam.
You never want your lath edges to meet. Always overlap your next stud. This prevents the mortar from cracking down the seam.
Make our job a lot easier.
On a job this size, it's a good idea to use pre-mixed mortar. If your sand and mortar are mixed together, you just add water. It's more convenient and more consistent with each batch you make.
When the mortar is the consistency of a frosting, use a rectangular finishing trowel and a London-style mason's trowel to apply it generously and thoroughly over the lath. Start on the inside and pull in from the corners.
After applying your scratch coat, you'll want to rough the surface up with the whisk broom. This will allow a better bond for your stone.
Now, while the scratch coat is drying, this is a great opportunity to lay out the stones for the columns. The great thing about this part of the project, it's like putting together a puzzle and you get to pick the pieces. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to have all the same size corner pieces and the same color corner pieces. You can vary them a little bit. Go with a big one and a little one. Same thing with the center pieces. Don't go with all the one size center pieces. Remember, nature is random, so keep your design random as well and have some fun. Now, you want to let the scratch coat dry for as long as possible, at least a couple of hours so you get good adhesion. Now, for installing the stones, a couple of rules. You don't want to start right in the center of the column because there's nothing to support the stones. So you can start on the ground, or what we're going to do, on the deck. The other thing we're doing, we're just using this 1x because you don't want to put the stone right on the deck as it expands and contracts. You want a little room for that, so that's why we're using that 1x. Well, we're going to start with the corner piece, and we'll go from there. You want to back butter the stone with a thin coat of mortar. Then put a lip around the edge, forming a cup. Set it in place and give it a little wiggle and hold it for about 5 to 10 seconds to make sure you have good adhesion. We'll prepare the stone for the opposite corner in the same way. Now comes the trick, fitting the center stones in place.
Before putting your mortar on your mud board, sprinkle some water on it. This will keep the board from sucking the moisture out of your mortar.
Now, it's a good idea to grout the seams as you go for a couple of different reasons. This grout will add a little extra support for the stones. And also, if we grouted the entire column at once, we still have to come back and finish these seams. Well, everything would dry at once and we wouldn't have a lot of time to finish those seams. Now, for the grout, I've just got a grout bag, sort of like icing a cake. Just squeeze and guide as you go and fill in the seams. Hi, I'm Paul Ryan, and we are just starting day 2 of our weekend handyman project, covering these porch columns with a natural fieldstone veneer. Now, so far we have 10 hours, a full day into this job, which we rate a 3 on our weekend handyman difficulty scale. Our first step was to prepare the bases of the columns with tar paper. Over that, we put our expanded metal lath, then a scratch coat of mortar. Finally, we were able to set the fieldstone. There you go. Well, Beth and I have been working pretty hard laying the stones in, making some pretty good progress. And you know, once in a while you're going to come across a space where a stone won't fit, so you're going to have to do some cutting. So what we recommend is just take the stone, put it into place. We're just going to do some carving with a pencil. And then you just want to take a mason's hammer or a brick hammer and make your chips. Now, you don't want to hit from the rounded side. You want to hit from the flat side so you've got a smoother surface to chip. Oh, well, this is why you should always order extra. You might break rocks. I'll mark this one. Now, once in a while, you're going to have a stone that extends above the top of the column. We have to cut this. Now, you don't want to hammer cut these corner pieces because typically what will happen, it'll split right down the center. So we're going to use a saw for those cuts.
We're using a 14-inch cutoff saw with a segmented diamond blade. The blade spins at high RPM, so you'll want to keep the stone on the front of the bed closest to your body.
You can actually melt stone while you're cutting it. That's why you use a segmented blade. A segmented blade will keep the cutting edge cooler.
Here's another tip. If the stone is too heavy, you can use a small rock as a shim to hold the stone in place so it doesn't slip. When the mortar between the joints crumbles off, it's ready to be tooled with a tuck pointer. Just scrape down the excess mortar in the joint to expose the edges of the stone, making sure that the depth of the joint flows smoothly.
After you've spent the time to lay the stone and grout your joints, be sure to take a little extra time in striking. Striking is what gives your project that finished professional look.
Well, these columns look great.
They look like full stones, Paul.
Yep, no one will ever know they're a veneer.
No.
Now, we can't quite finish cleaning up yet. We still have to put the tops on, and we'll do that when we come back. Now, if